Hello everybody on the internets. My name is Chris and this is my introductory video to this channel. So what I kind of want to do with this is kind of bring the gay community of wrestlers for one together, and also kind of to elevate the level that we generally see for people's like meeting off of Meat Fighters or Global Fight or something like that. And this comes out of years of I've been on there for about since 2003, and I've met people all over the world and have had some really great experiences. But one thing that I kind of have noticed is that people are generally very hobbyist about it, and a lot of people come up to me and they brag about how good they are, and then once we meet, they're not. And so, one thing I want to do with this is I kind of want to elevate the level that we are all on, and in a meaningful way. And before we kind of get started, to give you kind of a little bit of my background, like I said, I've been meeting people offline since 2003, and about 6 years ago, I started taking Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I don't have any high school or college wrestling background at all. It's just people I've met, and then 6 years of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I'm currently still a blue belt, which is going to be kind of your second tier. I'm not going to make any lies about saying that I'm this really advanced guy, but at the same time, I want to elevate people to kind of that blue belt level if you can, and I want to make clear pretty early on what that takes and what that actually means, because really, if you look at anybody who has studied grappling seriously, it's a thing where you actually have to meet up, 2, 3 to 5, even 5 times a week to be able to become any good, and you have to spar in those times too. So, what I would kind of recommend to anybody watching this who's trying to get up to a higher level and actually improve their game and really, really kind of have a good foundation for what they're doing, you do have to put in that mat time. And at some point in time, you might start taking Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or something along those lines. And I will, I'm not going to probably emphasize this throughout the course of this series, but I would recommend, getting a gi and actually practicing in a gi instead of just doing no gi all the time. One is if you're doing it for more self-defense purposes, nobody's going to attack you in a wrestling singlet. Nobody's going to attack you naked. And so why not train to have that advantage of people wearing clothes? The reason why we use a gi instead of street clothes is because street clothes will tear. You'll run out of clothes really quickly. But if I'm trying to defend myself and I have got one chance to do something to somebody, even like a stretchy Under Armour shirt that somebody's wearing can still be used to choke somebody. So it's not completely, it would hurt like hell, but it's not completely unreasonable to say, I'm going to go ahead and train in a gi so that, if somebody's wearing a jacket, they're wearing a long sleeve shirt, they're wearing a short sleeve shirt, they're wearing a button up shirt or a suit or some kind, like in any circumstances, those are tools that you could be using. But getting away from that kind of self-defense kind of scenario, the reason why I'd also encourage people to work in a gi is that when you are training in a gi, you have grips. You don't have that slipperiness that's going to come from skin and sweat. And so your ability to actually get to good positions is going to be elevated. And that's going to translate into your no-gi practice as well. The problem a lot of times when people are just starting is like, nothing ever works for me because I can't get those grips. So using a gi early on is going to allow you to get those grips and get into the positions that are going to get you those submissions. And once you start recognizing when those opportunities are there, you're going to start getting those grips more often. You're going to start going to be able to translate that into a no-gi scenario. So I do strongly believe that if you are really trying to get good at grappling, give yourself the advantage to where you can actually learn and develop and take every tool that you can, because there is going to be crossover. And as I said, I don't have training in Greco-Roman, folk style, freestyle. I've got an understanding of that, and there's a lot of principles that I can apply to that. But generally speaking, I would encourage anybody to come forward if they are watching this and like, hey, I've got that experience, and start making your own video series, and I can even get you the passwords to this account so that you guys can start posting your own stuff on here, because really, again, this is about growing community, and this is about elevating the level of all the wrestlers out there. One thing that I will say pretty early on is that I'm going to generally assume that people are starting from close to the ground, and I encourage people to do that. Where people get injured the most when it comes to grappling, even in really controlled and experienced scenarios, is the takedown aspect of that. And we can mitigate that by just starting on our knees most of the time. I know that's not practical for self-defense. We will cover takedowns. We will talk about how to do standing game and all that. But I think for the general purpose of people just kind of meeting to have fun for wrestling, I don't necessarily think that the stand-up game is 100% necessary. In fact, in jiu-jitsu, we very rarely actually train that as vital as it is, especially if you're going to be competing in tournaments. If you are wanting to compete in tournaments, join a school and train there, because for one, you're going to have to declare which school you're from for that tournament, but you are also you're not going to get to that level from this video series even if you train 3 times a week with the same partner. That partner is going to start falling into specific habits when they're rolling that that you're going to get very used to, and you're going to be used to exploiting those habits, and then you go into a tournament and somebody's going to have a completely different game than what you're used to, and that's going to totally throw you off. And so I would definitely recommend going to an environment where you can roll with a lot of people who do have a very good foundation in wrestling and grappling in general. So this is it for the introduction video. Please feel free to comment down in the comments down below and ask whatever questions you want to, anything that you want me to kind of emphasize in this series, and any place that you're having trouble or questions, and we can kind of see if we can answer those and go from there. So yeah, thanks for listening, and let's get on to World Warm-Ups.